So I want to explain in fairly great detail how 100 Thieves is playing bind to get such good results on their defensive side. We covered their comp already in a previous video, and now in this one, I'm going to go over some of their main setups that have given them such a big advantage in the current meta. And the pistol round kind of exemplifies like the general, I guess, overarching strategy idea that 100 Thieves is employing on this map, which is that you have two smoke players that are basically like the anchors of the site. So we have a Brimstone over on B, a Viper over on A, and these players will basically never move. Probably just about every setup that you'll see, unless there's some sort of like ultimate or sort of set play involved, you're going to see the initiators split. The Gecko is on A in this case, and the Fade is over on B. These will often switch. The Fade will often play A. The Gecko will also often play B. And basically, the general concept is that you have these two anchor points of the smokes. You've got the two info players, and then you have the rays, which kind of makes one side stronger than the other, right? You have a strong side and you have a weak side. And all that means is the weak side is going to have less numbers. The strong side is going to have more numbers. And how you kind of want to manage this is you want to play more aggressively with the strong side of the map. And that's enough yapping about the starting setup to this round. Let's get into the actual gameplay. And we're going to see right off the bat. So there's the Dizzy that I talked about, checking for information here, and it does not scan anything. Meanwhile, we have the two players over in B long kind of getting aggressive into a more aggressive setup.
Starting off on the attacking side.
And you'll see pretty immediately that once Boostio retrieves this, and it seems like there is some sort of presence by 100 Thieves outside of A, he's going to immediately fall into the back site. Meanwhile, we have the Viper basically just like holding lamps control. And then, as we can see, the setup over on B, definitely positioned to fight a little bit more aggressively towards that B long area. So after kind of chilling, I actually want to highlight this moment for a second because, so Cloud9 decides to go quiet, and it gives 100 Thieves an opportunity to make a mistake, basically, which is almost what we see here, where Cryocells starts to rotate over towards the A site. And while that might seem correct because there's been presence shown at the A site, this Brimstone should not be the one rotating, because if the Brimstone rotates, these two players are kind of screwed because somebody could be up in hookah, they'll never know, and they're very, very exposed for some sort of like hookah slash B-long crunch, and they have no backup, so to speak. So 100 Thieves almost makes a mistake. You can see Cryocells gets kind of called back. Okay, no, don't go A. He comes back to B. And the cool thing is that you can see this strong side, weak side setup in action here. The showers doesn't matter to 100 Thieves. Short doesn't matter to 100 Thieves. In fact, they don't really care if anybody even just kind of like lurks out here. All they care about is holding this, because that's all they can really hold safely with two players. This guy kind of just watches all of this very passively and reinforces if there is some sort of hit into the lamps area. And this guy can kind of stall and delay any number of players coming into lamps, because there's like one tiny little choke point, and if you can just, you know, molly it and sit in this tiny doorway, it becomes almost impossible for even 5 players to break through that very safely. So right here, again, just kind of highlighting the thing that I just talked about, you can see that it's a little bit more of an aggressive looking for contact here on the B side, where the Brimstone is ready to fight anybody coming in hookah. These two players are actively swinging into long, kind of off just to timing it and to try and take a fight if somebody is there. Meanwhile, the two players in A are playing very, very safe. Now, even as the fight is happening on B, these guys are just like, all right, let's just sit here. Let's not give them anything else in case there are players A. And they're gonna kind of just like wait and see what happens. They're gonna stick together, play in a very, very tight bunch, and the discipline from 100 Thieves to kind of like resituate themselves on the B. This setup is also much nicer. You can see these players are playing way more passively now, where they're just kind of holding lines, making sure that they're not exposed to the attackers. And again, I just really have to point out this setup in lamps. Every team just feels like they need to clear lamps when they're going A. But lamps is like the most useless piece of real estate that you can have as attackers, because even though you control this sort of like seemingly pivotal part of the map, it doesn't actually help you plant. And so it's very, very hard to clear this, and it doesn't actually get you very much. But everybody feels like you have to clear it. And so it's such a good place for the defenders to hold because they can stop a large numbers disadvantage on this particular part of the map, and basically only this part of the A site. And so they're able to hold this with relative ease against better numbers from the attackers. So 100 Thieves wins their anti-eco round after winning the pistol, and then their bonus round shows a kind of different variation of the setup that we just watched. So this time we have the Brimstone at A, we've got the Viper on B, we have the Fade over on A, and the Gecko on B. So again, we kind of have this similar setup of Smoke plus Initiator. The Initiator will aggressively look for information on the weak side of the map, and then the strong side Initiator will kind of be also looking for information, but they're not going to waste their stuff until there's confirmation about whether there are people at the weak side or not. We'll see that play out here immediately as the Fade is going to throw a Prowler down short. And then over here on the B side of the map, we have kind of a double stack to fight for hookah. And then we have information gathering in long where Boostio is going to be jump spotting. And then if he needs to, he can fall back here and check with a Dizzy and kind of just reinforce his hookah teammates. One of the things that 100 Thieves does better than basically anybody else on this map is their rotations. They're really, really good at gambling and being okay with gambling. And the way that they manage that risk of gambling always is that they play this strong side, weak side dynamic really, really well. So what we're going to see here actually is that as Asuna rotates off of B to A, we're going to see Boostio go from playing up here to playing back here. And he's kind of just going to use the Dizzy, and then these guys will actually fall back if necessary even deeper, while these three players will hold a little bit stronger because again, they're on the strong side of the map. As we start to see the Cloud9 attack commit to the A site, we're going to see a couple of things. First of all, the Fade here is going to continue to play kind of the same game that we saw in the pistol round, albeit in a different way. And that's basically just to like make them try to chase you out of U-Haul. Make them clear lamps, but do it in a way that is very dangerous for them. So we're going to see him take a very soft contact here. He's not going to commit to a fight, and he's definitely not going to hold aggressively for players swinging into him. He's going to make them expend utility. He's going to make them commit really deep into this part of the map that, again, doesn't actually help them plant the spike because they're not on the plantable area of the A site. Meanwhile, we're going to see Asuna and Cryocells kind of reinforce each other on the triple and bench side of the A site.
And his job is just to delay and control U-Haul, maybe back off after they invest too much utility and too many bodies into him.
So really, really soft contact from EU, just kind of pouring in utility to this little box. This is a very bad place to get utility bombed by the attackers, or as the attackers. It's really bad to be playing here when there are throwable pieces of utility and mollies and stuff raining down on you. It's just a good understanding of like kind of how this site is set up and how this map works for the defense from 100 Thieves. And you can see again, EU just kind of allows himself to be pushed out of lamps, but makes it dangerous. And then these two players are able to capitalize on somebody trying to sweep around and catch him coming out of the backside of lamps. And now they just sweep down through triple together. So I just wanted to pause at this quick screenshot from round number 4. We're not going to go over this whole round, but basically I just wanted to point out, look at the setup. Okay, 200 Thieves players on the weak side of the map are just stuck in lamps together. They're just holding it together. It's the only part of the A site they care about. On the B side of the map, we've got 2 players stacked up taking contact here, and then Boostio a little bit closer. So moving on to the next gun round, it is also important to notice the ultimate economy because 100 Thieves will kind of switch up their game plan when they have ults online. In this case, we've got the Orbital Strike and we've got the Showstopper, and we're going to see a slightly different setup here. We've got 2 info initiators on A, and we have the Raze with the Showstopper in short playing aggressively. Both smokers going to be anchoring on B. And this is basically just because they want to find out where the attackers are, and they want to use the Showstopper to immediately try and get a kill and get the numbers advantage super early in the round.
4 rounds in a row. Asuna with ult,
So we're going to see the info used immediately. The Dizzy goes over the top. We're going to see the Eye comes out here as well. Asuna immediately pushes up towards the shower side. He wants to just clear this out and maybe use the Showstopper if the either piece of the info initiator's utility finds anybody. Unfortunately, he kind of just gets like randomly spammed by the Viper. This is completely blind. Couple of bullets, finds the kill. So very unlucky death from Asuna. And it looks really stupid, but as you can see, there's nothing there. It's just kind of like an intuition play. Also, check this out. This is a great opportunity to kind of describe what they're doing. Is they have a strong side, they get aggressive on the strong side, the weak side plays passively, but even now that they've lost a player, they want to continue trying to play in that similar way, because you still need to be strong, especially when you're at equal weapons, right? We're in a rifle round. So if this player can get over to B, if the Fade can get to B, this just becomes the strong side and this becomes the weak side, right? It basically just cancels out the fact that they're in a 4-on-4 or in a 4-on-5, because if the 5 hits the site with 3 players on it, it's basically the same thing as if 100 Thieves had all 5 alive, if that makes sense. Because if this was a 3 and this was a 2, they would be trying to actively fight at the 3 site. So if we can take this Fade and get them over here, so this becomes a 3 site, this is still, and this is a 1 site, this essentially functions like it's a 3-2 still, as long as the attackers go into the 3 site. So this rotation happens pretty quickly from the Fade. We can see that Gecko is kind of just like trying to make a play at this point, just continue to get information. And he's kind of just trying to get like early information, right? Because if he gets early information, maybe he gets a couple of kills here, he still gives his teammates at the strong side enough time to rotate over. And he also is kind of confirming that this rotation is correct from 100 Thieves. The gamble is correct because he's so aggressively searching for information over here. This could definitely go very poorly if he just dies instantly and they run in and get the A. But right now, he's doing a very good job of confirming that, yes, we should be gambling here. We should have the strong side here. We should be looking to fight aggressively. And we're going to see one of the many utility combos that 100 Thieves likes to do with their comp. If you watch the other video where I talked about the strength of the comp, you'll notice that I mentioned C's being a very integral part of this comp because it functions so well with so many other abilities. And this is one of them. They have the ultimate. They're going to try and get a free kill with the C's and the orbital strike, and it would have killed Vanity, the spike carrier there, but he dies to a bullet from Bang before it hits. Anyway, very, very close to killing 3 people with this Seize and ultimate combo. Could have been completely a massive round changer. Unfortunately, C9 Oxy kind of sits a couple people down and the round falls apart. But you can kind of see that even in a round that goes very poorly, the overall idea of how to play the round from 100 Thieves is excellent. So this is another great little setup that 100 Thieves does pretty often. Again, I'm going to point out sort of the basics of the setup. We've got Info Initiator plus Smoke Anchor. We've got Smoke Anchor, Info Initiator, and then the Rays, making this the strong site. Although there is one other thing to kind of count, which is that we have an Operator in play now, which makes the B site also quite strong. Pushing into an op plus a Viper is very dangerous as well. So this defensive setup from 100 Thieves is really good, regardless of where the attack goes, without making any rotations. And 100 Thieves loves to do this. They throw what looks like a bad orb, and then they post Boostio on the line with the Operator here. And then again, I will say 100 Thieves is actively trying to fight for A. Boostio misses the shot, unfortunately, but immediately falls to a much more passive line. And you can see, look at this. Look at this. 100 Thieves immediately goes into their rotation protocol because he's seen like 3 players that are important to the attack over here. And so it's very likely that the intent for Cloud9 was to come B. So immediately, boom, we see the Fade start to rotate over, and immediately Cryocells pulls out of shower because guess what? 100 Thieves is going to give up all of the A site, go into their weak side A protocol, which is to clump up in lamps. They're going to just hold the lamps area, and they're going to allow their team on B site to try and take the fight if necessary. So we see the 3 players at B, but 100 Thieves, because they have this double initiator setup with rechargeable utility, they now have another set of info online. Remember, if this is a Sky comp, if this Fade was a Sky, there is some chance now that this is the last flash that they have, and then boom, they're out of information except for maybe like the dog. But this is rechargeable. They have rechargeable Dizzy as well. And so we're going to go ahead and just try and get stock of what's happening in this round. So they're going to check for information outside of B long. The eye gets shot immediately. And 100 Thieves decides, okay, cool. We've got our operator back in a much more passive spot. We've got the Viper in a nice kind of anchoring spot here as well. And we've shown that we probably have 3 players here. The Fade is immediately going to rotate back here. And this works because we've already moved our Gecko into a more passive spot. And we'll watch how 100 Thieves acts on the A site once they get their Fade over here. So they were holding this. They re-cleared lamps. The Fade rotates over, and these guys start positioning a little bit more aggressively. They start edging out towards triple to try and hold that area. The Fade is already here, so the rotations have already been made. They already have 3 players and a 4th coming, so they're going to have numbers when the attackers commit to the site. We've got another rifle round, and real quick, we can just show, again, Info Initiator, smokes, Info Initiator plus the rays, getting more aggressive, trying to get the orb over here. And we'll just kind of pay attention to the rotations as the round goes on. The eye gets shot. He immediately prowlers out to sort of confirm, are they close to showers? Are they coming showers? It looks like they're not because the prowler hit nothing. And immediately we're going to see the rays rotate off of this. Before we go to the next game, I just wanted to show one more round where we get to see a little bit more proactivity out of the strong side, this time happening at A. Again, info, smokes, info plus rays, getting aggressive, trying to take the showers control, trying to get the orb farmed up. And in this case, Cloud9 is actively trying to fight for showers. And so you can see that 100 Thieves gets kind of initially pushed off, but they've shown presence in showers. They sort of like dissuaded anybody from coming in initially, and they're trying to get aggressive with this 3 stack that they have. But look at this. They're still super passive at B with their operator line. They're not playing aggressively. They're not allowing themselves to get kind of caught way too far forward, but they are going to play aggressively with the strong side of the map. So they triple up, and they're going to go re-clear showers. They're going to do this together. They're going to use info. They're going to go ahead and, take the duel. They're going to push them back. And now they've sort of lost that little engagement. Again, we haven't moved at all from B. These guys are going to go into sort of like, we're going to give up this part of the map. That's fine. The attackers can have this part of the map because it's not a good part of the map for them. If they want to win this round, they need good, solid control of this area. They need good, solid control of this area. We're going to double up and kind of just retake this area. And then we're just going to play, you know what? Are you going to push backside? Okay, you're going to try to push backside? Well, too bad, because we have numbers back here. So you can see there's like a line drawn by 100 Thieves. They say you can have the front side of the map, you can try and go for a plant in the default spot, but you do not get anything else because we're strong here and we're going to hold strong. And we can see the same setup. This is against NRG, so this is a week later, I believe. We've got info and smoke anchor in the tight spot on A. They're going to be playing passively. They're not going to be aggressive. We've got the more aggressive setup on the strong side, but also have the info and the smoke anchor. Energy, a little bit more of a kind of like feel out the round type of team than Cloud9. So we'll see how that style works against 100 Thieves.
They're also playing for championship points. For a chance to make the champs, one win is 1 point.
Lucio fighting aggressively for this area. Unfortunately, doesn't have a ton of support from that spot. Once again, we see the same rotation, right? So they lose a player at B, but they immediately gamble that 4th player over to the site. So if energy does hit the 3 site, again, it's as if nobody is dead, right? This sort of like instant over rotation by 100 Thieves could pay off if energy speeds up into B. If it doesn't, we're going to see 100 Thieves potentially redistribute their players again. Notice this, very proactive on the strong side of the map. So we jump spot, we position aggressively. We got the strong side being proactive, we have the weak side being passive and just trying to do as much damage as possible. Just hold space.
As an agent that can't really escape. Yeah, but that's been a mistake here from energy on that previous round.
Cryo gets 2, blows this up, and we already have the double rotation over here. So if energy speeds up into this, again, this was a 5v4 round. Energy came B, they ran into 3 players. Now they're running A, and they're going to run into 3 players. So 100 Thieves, because they've been so fast with this rotation and so gambly and just like decisive with these calls, they've made it as if nobody has died this round. Again, it's kind of a weird concept, but because this game is all about trying to hit the site with less numbers, your goal in a 3-2 setup is to hit the 2 site. And if this keeps becoming a 3 site as you hit the 2 site, you're just always going to run into a very hard time on the attack. So 100 Thieves wins the bonus. We've got a little bit of an anti-eco here, and we're going to get to see another one of those nice combos. Seize plus grenade, boom, free kill. And again, this is just why the Fade is so good with this comp, because everything works with the Seize. And they just completely shred energy. Okay, back to rifles for energy, and again, we're going to just see info, smokes, plus the raise. Strong side A side will be the more proactive, the more aggressive side. And because they checked and got no information outside of showers, and they were able to claim the orb, they immediately get the raise rotating towards the weak side of the map, so that the weak side will become strong side. And as usual, we want to just kind of pay attention to the A players. So we've got, again, Cryo bunkering here in lamps, Boostio kind of falling off to the backside, and a much more aggressive play being made at the B side, which was now the strong side. But now we go into the next round with a still rifle buy and a couple of ultimates for 100 Thieves. And again, it's usually the ult rounds that are going to switch up the setup a little bit. But again, we still have the info plus the anchor, but we're getting really aggressive on the A side, going down short with the Gecko ultimate and the raise if necessary. So in this case, we do a little bit of an overcommitment, but it is a kill. It's kind of worth it just to get that numbers advantage, because now you're in such a good spot. 5v4. Okay, so this setup is another thing that 100 Thieves will pull out pretty regularly, and I think they kind of do it when they have a little bit of a rough spot. So we can see Energy has been able to kind of piece together a couple of rounds that are very scrappy. 100 Thieves is getting a little bit lower on credits. They're a little bit, shoddy of a buy. They've got Cryo with a Judge. And so what they're going to do is they're going to go to this setup where they just have a floating character. Okay, so we still have our anchor plus info on B. This is very standard. We still have our smokes anchor on A plus our raise, but we have a floating character, and it's usually going to be the Fade. Sometimes it's the raise, and the only purpose is just to make sure that you get the strong side correct. All you have to do if you're playing here, you've already done half of the rotation or more from one side to the other. But if you just play in spawn, if you're not playing aggressively and you're not trying to fight aggressively for orbs or whatever, and you just kind of play normally standard on sites, you can basically just guarantee that you have the rotation early. The aggressive move is shown from Energy towards A site, so Fade comes to the A site. So now we have our strong side with 3 over here. We've got our weak side with B over here. Now, obviously, as we can see on the minimap, Energy is sort of doing a fake, or at least that's what it appears to be, is they're just trying to fake A to draw this rotation over here. Maybe not knowing that this rotation was so fast. And so I assume that now, after stuff has been shown, we're going to see, yep, there's the eye. So the info is collected basically in response to the sky. Sky flashes, uses the dog. Fade immediately eyes. That utility is coming back. And off that information of, they just threw info down short, but there's nobody being tagged by the eye. Obviously, they're not coming A. And boom, Fade goes back to the B site. Now we have a strong side B site, weak side A site, and the A side players are properly positioned, meaning they're very, very passive. They're very, very close to already starting the rotation to the B site. Again, that's another thing that I should mention, is the more passive that you play on A and B, the faster it is to rotate. And so this map is one where the attackers should be able to win the rotation battle all the time because they have the teleport, right? So these teleports are just, they allow the attackers to go from one side of the map to the other side of the map very, very quickly. But if you on defense could play kind of in your spawn, you can also rotate very, very quickly. And so it's kind of way to cheat the map a little bit from what it's trying to do.
This might be a second pivot rather from Energy if they want to go inside the TP. There's that nightfall. It will connect just before being.
So as Energy tries to force their way in, they're running into a ton of utility. They're running into 3 players, now 4 players, as Asuna comes over as well. And it's just not going to work out well for them because the choke points are too easy to hold, especially when you have numbers, especially when you have a lot of fighting utility, which is what 100 Thieves has with their lineup. So moving a bit later in the season, we have the playoffs now. They're playing against G2. They're playing on bind. As we can see, 100 Thieves started on attack this time, and they finished with a 6-6 half. So we go to the defense. It's tied up. 100 Thieves, again, they are running a very, very similar setup. We've got the anchor smokes in lamps. We've got the anchor smokes in hookah. We've got the info be long, the info showers, plus the raise.
Looking like they want to take a bit of a gamble approach over towards it, just contacting most of the way.
Similar read.
So we see the jump peeking on be long for information. And we see these players on A will be fighting more aggressively for the site. And we're also going to see info used on the B side. If this is a Sky, Sky has to use a piece of utility that does not come back, right? And it's important to do this because you've seen contact here. You don't necessarily know how many players are attacking. You don't know where maybe a lurk could be. There could be players coming up B long at the same time as there's players going showers. And so you want to confirm that, yes, this rotation of my weak side defender to the strong side to make it even stronger is correct. And so to do that, you have to check for information. So the eye gets used, the rotation gets confirmed, and now we have 4 players at A, and we've got just kind of the fade, you know, floating, trying to just stay alive, play in as safe a place as possible since they're so isolated. But the comms are happening now from 100 Thieves. There hasn't been any commit. Maybe they could re-hit here, but we still have control of lamps, which means that probably they're not getting aggressive on A. We already have our rays kind of in a position who can either reinforce lamps or make this rotate quickly. And then we have a passive hold from this player here who can kind of watch for showers and A short as well. So this time we've got a little bit of a different setup from 100 Thieves. And this is kind of just to throw off anybody who maybe has watched the VODs, I believe, where we've seen this play in the past, actually, where the fade was aggressively prowling, and it meant that there was 2 players at A and 3 players at B. This is kind of just to disguise that they actually have strong side A and weak side B. And they've changed up the position of these 2 players, again, just to give a little bit different look.
Put presence into.
Prowlers flipping out where G2 are playing.
But overall, the setup is still going to continue to function in a similar way. So we've got the kind of proactive contact and showers, the anchor here. We've got the double up on the weak side in the easily defensible part of the map. And then we have kind of just this ability to box the attackers into the part of the map that they really don't want to be playing in when there are a lot of grenades and mollies and other throwable pieces of utility raining down on their heads. And also, again, just look where 100 Thieves is holding. They don't care about lamps. Okay, so as you can see, 100 Thieves struggling a little bit on defense. 4 rounds in a row for G2. G2 has been doing a good job of kind of hiding where they are, not giving them kind of early information to gamble the rotates off of. And so 100 Thieves is going to their float the fade setup, where they have the fade sitting in spawn. Then they have their anchor +1 on both of the sites. So we see that early rotation of the fade over towards B. They just gamble off of the initial sort of jump peak that happened. And normally the weak side of the map would play more passively, but we have a Bucky for Asuna, so he has to kind of play a close angle. But you can also see that they're basically just holding like this part of the map. They're not trying to hold too much. They're not trying to hold showers. They're not trying to hold like the front of the site. They're just kind of grouping up so that they can at least kind of help each other. See the Dizzy get used for info here. There's no info B long, and immediately the rotation happens. Make that the strong side of the map. You can see G2 again doing a really good job of just like dragging this out, because it makes it harder for 100 Thieves to play the game that they want to play.
Bait out the defense into making a mistake. And thus far, Valen's had a
info
really
gets
good
used
read
again,
what's
and we
going
can
on.
see the
And
rotation.
again
So
here, the fact that
again, this slower pace tempo from G2 is really starting to hurt what 100 Thieves is doing. G2 was really the only team that had decent success against 100 Thieves. And this is probably a main reason why. But even though they don't get the numbers right, the rest of their protocols are still good. Because look at this. It's a very passive hold. Boostio can fall out if necessary. We have Bang playing kind of the one spot that he can hold by himself, which is Hookah. And then we have the rotation early, sort of at the moment that it looks like is very, very likely going to be committed to B. And so Boostio falls out, sort of throws some counter utility, does not die, stays alive, holds a little bit of space in the back of the site. You know, if they want to overcommit into elbow, sure, we'll fight them there. Bang makes a bit of a mistake dying. However, boom, again, I have to just talk about these combos. This is another thing that you always have to consider when you're playing as this comp. Seize plus Orbital Strike is going to absolutely torch these two players. Boom, boom, double kill. Now, all of a sudden, we're in a potential Thrifty situation because we have numbers here. Yes, the spike is planted, but there's some real legs to this retake.